Everyone, welcome back. It's your energy healer, Zach Luz. Today's frequency meditation and energy healing is going to be on private matters. So these are things that you'd rather not discuss with people, but you still have the issue going on. So think in terms of like eighth house stuff. So, occult stuff, religious things, the other people's money, investments, all that kind of stuff that we'd rather keep hidden, we'd rather keep to ourselves. We'd rather talk about behind closed doors. That's what we're going to be working on today. So just in case you're new to these pick a readings, what I'm going to do in a second is I'm going to pop up a bunch of numbers on the screen and then let your intuition guide you to select one of those numbers. Then based on whichever one you picked, that's going to correspond with your group. In a second, I'm going to go through and read the patterns that are creating the problems for each group. And then I'll talk about what are the common themes, and then I'll help you kind of go through your reading and help you clear out those patterns. So I'll talk about the problem that you're experiencing, how that got started. I'll talk about why you took the pattern on, and then I'll talk about a solution that I will help kickstart through some energy healing. So if you're new to any of this stuff and you're curious how it works, I've got a podcast that explains all about that. But in these YouTube healings, I just want to focus on actually helping you shift the thing. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump in. So I'm going to pop the numbers up now and give you a second to make your choice. All right, cool. I'm going to assume you've got your number. So if you want, you can just use the timestamps down below and it'll skip you right to your healing. I would recommend that you hang out for the optional grounding meditation, which is a short meditation we do before all this stuff, which helps you ground and feel more in your body, gets you less distorted by any of the energy work that I do, as well as it helps make things a little easier for me to read you when your energy isn't like scattered all over the place and you're in one spot. In time and space, it makes it a lot easier for me to read your patterns. So, and please make sure that you are not driving while you listen to this. Although these can look, sound, and feel a lot like normal meditations, they're not. They're very different, and they can be physically disorienting. They don't always do that, but just in case they do, please make sure you're not listening to this while you're driving. And cool. Go ahead and get started. All right, so if you're ready, feet flat on the floor, spine straight, whether you're sitting, standing, or lying down. Go ahead and take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold at the top of your breath. Release through your mouth. Long, deep, slow breaths in through the nose. Hold. And release. All right. You might already start feeling me generating frequencies. And if you don't, it doesn't matter, it still works. Let's go ahead and on our next inhale, I want you to imagine a column going down into the center of the earth. And then as you exhale out everything that no longer serves you, while acknowledging that it did serve you at one point in time, otherwise you wouldn't have it. So letting that drain out down through that column all the way into the center of the earth. And then go ahead on your next inhale. Inhale the transformative patterns of the earth that are deep, deep, deep inside the earth, hidden from view, but are always transforming, coming into purity and its highest state. And then on your next inhale, breathe those patterns up, that column, into the base of your spine. Nice. One more inhale. Really imagining those patterns coming up into your spine. All right. Next thing we're going to do is take a deep breath in and then hold our breath and ask ourselves a question. How do I connect to pure source even stronger? That's not my question, but it's a really, really good one. Don't worry if you don't know what it means. It's just a way of like making sure your connection is very pure and not distorted by other weird stuff. Okay. All right, bring your attention to your feet. And now start going up the legs, ankles, shins, calves, knees, kneecaps, into the thighs, into the hips, groin area, lower torso, wrapping around back into the lower part of the spine. And then bring our attention up the spine into our mid-torso, solar plexus, up into our upper torso, down our arms, down into our hands, back up into our throat area, back of the neck, up into the head, coming down the top of the head, into the face, forehead, eyes, eye sockets, nose, lips, mouth, chin, ears. Just noticing your whole body from head to toe. If you want to quickly open your eyes, take a look at the environment and just notice what is you, what is your external environment. I know sometimes when you do like these kinds of meditations, or if you feel the way that you're feeling now, it's tempting to kind of like drift off and go out of the body. Stay in your body for this one. All right, cool. Just give me one more sec. There's like a small group that's like kind of bouncing around a little bit. I just help you guys get back into your body. For those of us that are bouncing around a little bit, your healing will take like maybe like 10-15 minutes. So Feels like that'll help you. Okay, cool. All right, we are all grounded. Let's go ahead and get started with the first group. For group number 1, this is kind of like a connection intimacy challenge that's been coming up. So let me see if I can see what the pattern is. Give me a sec. Yeah, so you just feel kind of unfulfilled, like you can't like really connect with your partner all the way. So if you have a partner, you can't connect with them all the way, or if you're single, you probably feel like very isolated. It doesn't matter if you're male or female. It's like you're going through all the physical motions of intimacy and sex. It's like you're going through all the motions of sex, but you're not connecting in the right way, so that it leads you to feel super unfulfilled. So you may have been trying to like spice things up by trying different things in the bedroom, but it's not working for you. So let's see what's going on with the way that you're connecting, because that's the thing that's off. It's just like most clearly showing up for you in intimacy. By the way, I'm not saying any of that stuff is right or wrong. I'm not going to make any judgments about how you do that stuff. Just want to see like what's the underlying pattern, so that if you're into that, that becomes more fun and more fulfilling. And if you're not, then you don't feel like you have to resort to that. Not that there's like anything wrong with it. To each their own. So it's like what you're trying to do is you're trying to make the person that you're with feel more worthy by you reducing your worth. That's why anything that you try differently in the bedroom, it doesn't leave you feeling fulfilled, because you're pushing them up and pushing you down in the process. It's like you're not even pushing them up, you're just pushing yourself down so that they can perceive themselves as being higher for a second. And because you're trying to do something, it's like a polarity thing. Let me clarify this a little bit. Yeah, in its simplest form, it's just like abuse is exciting. And here's why that works. If we have abuse, any level of abuse when we're little, and it doesn't have to be like explicit sexual abuse, it could be emotional, it could be, a lack of attention. There's a whole spectrum to abuse, even though that's a word that really gets our attention. What happens is if we go through abuse and we survive the abuse, then that becomes coded in our brain as being a safe experience. So then later on in life, if life is kind of like boring, humdrum, like mundane, like normal thing, it's just like a boring routine that just keeps repeating itself. One way for us to spice things up is to get ourselves really into that abuse scenario. Like the more intense that we can get it, the more excitement it brings to us. And the reason that that's so exciting for us is because we survived it once. So that part of us, like our primal caveman reptile brain, that part of us feels safe through the experience because it's survived that experience before. So it's coded as a safe experience. So then we go, ooh, let's try all this other out there stuff. And then deep down we know it's safe. So then it changes us out of like that boring routine. While this is probably most pronounced in your intimate relationships, in the bedroom particularly, you might even feel this in just normal conversations with people, where anytime you see someone and you like ask how you doing, it's like how you doing? I'm good. How are you? I'm good. I'm fine. And it's just like this back and forth thing that leaves you, it doesn't like help you connect. So you're just trying really hard to find some other way of bringing excitement into your life. So you might like focus on your interactions with strangers and like try to spice those up somehow by like asking them interesting questions, or trying to like break them out of the monotony that they might be in. But it still doesn't fulfill you, because you just like are running like this abuse pattern where basically, in order to create that excitement, you push yourself down. So let me stick with the idea of you being like at the grocery store and talking to the checkout person. Let's say you're having like a pretty good day, and then they say, oh, I'm not doing so well. You'll immediately start focusing on the things that are going really, really poorly for you in an attempt to recreate that dynamic, to push them up and push you down. Because it's like you're trying to make them feel good, and it also like excites you. So makes sense why this would show up in the bedroom. So let me see if I can find the origins of the pattern so you can understand why you took this on, and then I'll help you let go of it. The sense that I get is it's just kind of like an animalistic pattern, where that just kind of like got lumped into intimacy. And it's important that we're not like putting any shame around any of that stuff, because a lot of us have like so many wounds around sexuality, and like there's something wrong with it, or like it's impure, or like, you know, the primal parts of us need to be shunned or scooted away into the corners. That's not at all what I'm talking about here. But this pattern, it just kind of got mixed in, like abuse got mixed into sexual intimacy. So that's not going to work. Well, said another way, that's just like not the highest level of what intimacy can feel like. In its purest form, sexual intimacy is opening up to source, opening up to God. Sorry if that word triggers people. I know it has like a lot of baggage around it. I used to have a lot of triggers around the word God. But that's basically what intimacy can be. It can be this, you know, incredible sacred union between two people. It can feel like this ecstatic dance and this deeply spiritual connecting ritual that, you know, is really, really beautiful thing. So while there's nothing to be ashamed of, and, you know, shame and guilt, those are just like pretty useless emotions, and it's just kind of it's a control thing that we don't have to play into. I just want to help this group step more into that form of union where you can still be expressive, and if when you are sexual you like being primal, you can do it from like a different perspective where the abuse component gets removed. So you can still be wild and have fun and all that stuff, but it's not going to feel like mean and abusive and like aggressive. And there's a lot of people that are into like more alternative forms of sexual intimacy that, you know, like that's like their cornerstone thing. So even if you're into that kind of thing, like you'll come back into it from a new perspective where you're able to do the same things, but the abuse component is just gone. So if you really don't want to let go of the abuse stuff, then maybe stop listening now. But if you'd like to take intimacy and connection overall with people and move it into a new territory where it's more of that, you know, beautiful divine partnership, that beautiful divine union, where it's still ecstatic and still feels absolutely incredible to be a part of, but it's going to feel so much less aggressive than it has for a long time. Which, you know, if typically like you're more aggressive, you just like won't want to do that. And if you are usually the one where someone else is more aggressive to you, they'll just kind of no longer want to do that, and that may affect your relationship. You may break up. It just kind of depends on if their pattern can jive with that new version of you. So I feel like 60-40, you'll stay in a relationship, 40% will probably break up. So just a heads up if you're in a relationship and that's like a big deal. So just giving you a choice on whether or not you want to do this. But if you're still hanging out, I'm going to assume you'd like me to work on the pattern. So I'll go ahead and do that now. If you're ready, take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold. Release. attention to your feet area. Space around your feet. They're up to like base of the spine. Okay, cool. That's going to do it for today. Thanks so much for hanging out. If you enjoyed this, please consider liking, subscribing, sharing with a friend, and I'll see you guys next time. Later. All right, hey group 2, let's see what's going on for you guys. All right, so first information I'm getting is it's just like a pattern from parents that got handed down to you. You kind of inherited it. There's shame attached to it. It's like, it's kind of like two. It's like shame around money or shame around like disease or like an illness. Yeah, it's just like a really stubborn problem that continues to persist for you. So it could be health or it could be money. But the thing that's very clear about it is it's like it's something that your parents struggled with. So it's the same kind of thing just been handed down to you. So whatever their experience was around either like a stubborn health issue that they went through or stubborn money issues that they went through or even are still going through, like you have that and you're running that same pattern. It just feels like something that they struggled with for a long time and were never able to really figure out how to get rid of it or rectify it. And now you have the same thing. For you to get rid of this thing, basically the way that it's written in the spiritual code, we'll say, is for you to get rid of it means that you're going to be unlike your parents, which emotionally for you feels like you're abandoning them. So it's like you're leaving them behind with this problem. By you recreating the problem in your own life and being just as frustrated, just annoyed by it, just as burdened by it, you feel like a certain level of closeness to your parents, which ironically is not like they would wish the exact opposite for you. They don't want you to have this problem. They would do anything to like not have you have this same problem, but you have it. So you're doing it in an effort, in an attempt to try to not abandon them, not to kind of like go run off into, it's like the picture I see is like somebody running off into a meadow and like jumping around all happy and like skipping through the forest or skipping through the meadow and, skipping through flowers and all that stuff, while the parent is like looking on. It's like looking from a wheelchair at somebody doing all that. So it feels like disrespectful for you to abandon them. So that's the reason that you're taking on this and why you're having that stubborn health or money problem. That it doesn't matter what the health or money problem is, but the end result of it is like you feel shame. You feel ashamed, you feel embarrassed, you want to hide it, you don't want to talk about it. So just looking at this from a purely like logical standpoint, look at how long your parents carried shame about whatever this pattern is. Look at how it didn't do them any good. Same thing applies to you. I'm not going to get into like debating whether or not you should have the shame or any of that stuff, because that's a lot harder for some of us to let go of. We actually like will cling to shame. But the point I want to bring up is just like end result, bottom line, look at how long they carried the shame and how little good it did for them. It didn't shift the pattern. They still had it. They still had the issue, whether it was financial or health related. So you doing the same thing, what do you think is going to happen? Okay, so then like what a lot of us are going to is like, okay, so then I'm supposed to be like proud or okay with this thing that I've previously been embarrassed about. So that's the trick of shame. What it does is it's a control structure. You just want to opt out. You just want to like unsubscribe from shame as a concept. That's what you want to do. It's like you don't want to be proud of it. You don't want to be embarrassed by it. Some people, what we do is like we take our pain and we take the things that we've been through, we take the obstacles and challenges that we've had to overcome, and then we value them so strongly. So it's like at first it feels really bad to have the problems. But then what happens is those problems like lead us to learn other things about ourselves. There are these challenges and we overcome them. But then what happens is after we overcome them, a lot of us will hold on to that story. So then we become really proud of the things, the ailments, of the obstacles, of the challenges, of how hard life has been. So then what happens is we're basically holding on to it from the opposite perspective. And it's really the same thing, just on like it's just a different level of the same thing of why we're holding on to it. We're still connected to it. And what you want to do is you just want to unsubscribe from the whole thing. You just want to like opt out of being ashamed by it or being proud of it. That's why I was bringing your attention back to like logically, just like the core logistics, like what happens when you hold either shame or pride about it. It might be easier for you to access, like with your parents, whatever the thing was. If you can remember a time when they didn't have it, they didn't have this problem, whether it was health or money. When they didn't have that problem, like if they were really proud about it, like that didn't get rid of the problem either. Like the thing happened, whatever it was. I can't. There's too many different possibilities for me to like say like this is exactly what it was. But if you're proud of it or ashamed by it, you're dictated by it. It's like it's governing you rather than it just being another manifestation of who you are. So that's why we want to get our focus back on that logical level of like whether your parents held shame or pride about it, they still had to deal with this thing. It was still this factor in their life. And for you to let go of this, you have to be different than your parents. You have to be running a different pattern than them, which may feel slightly disloyal of you. So that's what I'll help us work on, is like a new definition of abandonment and loyalty, and like clarify some of that stuff. Okay, so the old definition of loyalty is like being in sacrifice and lowering our well-being in an effort to be like or hold like a similar level of well-being as those that we love. It's just like war. Like back in the day, war was like sacrificing and going, in the trenches. It was basically like putting ourselves into a worse situation in an effort to be just like other people and to relate with them. But that's like an outdated definition of loyalty. A more updated version of loyalty is being consistent. So like the metaphor that comes up is like your house. So the old way of doing loyalty is like if you went over to your friend's house or you went over to your parents' house and their house was messy, then you'd go make your house messy too. And then you'd both live in a messy situation, and that was just kind of how it was. But the new definition of loyalty that you might want to take on, and I will help you do that through this energy healing if you want it, your version of loyalty is like you keep your house clean. You keep yourself clean and orderly and all that stuff. And then when you're around the other person, you're demonstrating just as a loyal person would, like this is how it can be. And you are being loyal to their potential. You're being loyal to what they can shift themselves into. So that's like main idea here. So yeah, I'm just going to start working on that. So if you want that pattern, go ahead and listen. And if you don't, that's okay too. So if you're ready for that, take a deep breath in through your nose. Just like I'm removing like suffering from loyalty. It's not about suffering. Bringing in consistency. It's like you being consistent to your highest potential reminds them that that is constantly available to them. And that's like the most loyal thing you could ever do. Not by like pretending like both of your higher potentials don't exist. So for a lot of people in this group, like your parents are kind of like blending into you. So I just helped you pull them out. You'll notice the two of you separate a bit, and then you'll separate, and then you can both kind of come into your own space, and then you can come back together, but you won't blend as much. So what that'll look like is like whatever the old rules were, or the old things that you used to do together, like that's gonna kind of stop. And then you kind of redefine those rules and see if you want to come together in the same way again, or if you want to try something different. So it's going to change like a lot of your patterns. So basically, in order for this one to change, a bunch of other ones you have to redefine and decide, well, okay, do I want to be like my parents in this way, or do I want to be like something new? And then you just kind of go through all that, you make those decisions, and then this will be one of those. It's like if you got a computer that they gave to you and it has all their settings, I just like wiped it clear, so now it's open so that you can set up all the settings how you like it, and it's going to suggest like, oh, do you want mom and dad's pattern here? Do you want mom and dad's setting here? So then you just sift through those settings and basically decide, okay, yes, I want to take the recommended settings, or I want to start creating my own. So there's some ones that you're going to want to like keep, but this one you're probably going to want to create a new pattern for yourself. So that's going to do it for today. If you enjoyed today's reading, please consider liking, commenting, subscribing, and sharing with a friend if you feel inspired. And I'll see you next time. Hey, group 3, let's see what's going on for you. So first thing I notice is it's like there's this feeling in the back of the throat. It's like a itchy, scratchy feeling. It's like feeling controlled by someone else. Yeah, you're really upset about that. Yeah, so it's like being controlled and then not feeling like you can speak up and speak out about whoever it is that you feel like is controlling you and like restricting you. Okay, and it's probably someone that you actually have like a close connection with. So that's why you feel like you can't speak up. So it's like if it was like a stranger or something, or someone that you didn't have any emotional enmeshment with, then it'd be a lot easier for you to just stand up for yourself, speak out, and say like, no, this isn't working, like, you can't do that to me. But it feels like in this one, there's someone that you are close to, or you have a close relationship with them, but you also feel like they control you, and they control what you can say and what you can't say. Yeah, it's like the societal norms of what's acceptable to talk about is very limited. It's just like it would be wildly inappropriate for you. So that's like the structure of how you keep feeling controlled by them. It's like it just seems inappropriate for you to react. Wow. Oh. Sorry, I was just feeling it a lot. Yeah, it's like feeling suffocated by them, basically. Yeah, the feeling is like, as soon as I can say something about this, I'm going to. But that might be a while before you feel like you can do that. It's like you're just waiting for an opening or a time when it's appropriate. This could be like authority figures. It could be friends. You just feel like because it would be inappropriate for you to voice how you really feel about the whole power dynamic that's going on between the two of you. You just don't do it. So the reason that you don't do it is it's just inappropriate. It just feels like socially it would not be acceptable. The metaphor that comes up is like being at a playground with a bunch of kids, and then somebody that you have like this problem with shows up at the playground, and then you're like, I would really like to yell at you and I'm gonna lay into you right now, but you can't do it because there's all the kids around, and you don't want to like set a bad example, you don't want to like make a scene, you don't want to scare the other people that are around. So then you just have to like hold on to it and bury it, and then it's like staying at the back of your throat. I mean, as I talk about this, I can feel my throat just like tightening up. It's also the back of the throat, like all the way into the head. Yeah, so it's just like you feel like suffocated from actually expressing how you feel. So first thing to note, like they don't actually have control of you, but for you, like confronting them, there's something about that is awakening to you, and it's important for you to go through that. And it's like you have to have somebody else that you feel and believe has control of you, so that you can like rebel against it, so you can push back and confront that. Like that feels very important for you to go through. So like there has to be someone that plays that role for you. Yeah, and then I just get this like this situation where it's like you're just getting like pulled down. It's like this drooping sensation. It's like being in quicksand where you're just kind of being pulled down by social norms, basically. That metaphor that I was giving of being at the playground where you feel like you really want to say this, but you can't because it's inappropriate. It's like that just stays with you all day. No matter where you go, there's another like playground with little kids where you can't lose it and you can't like explode at them. So then you just have been sustaining that for a really long time. So you're mostly just angry and fearful about it. You're fearful of like how they might be able to retaliate. You're angry that you're having to deal with this. A little bit of sadness, but this group is more just like anger. It's like stuck energy. So that might be why you need to like confront them and explode. Yeah, they're just kind of like grinding away at you until you get to this point where you have no choice but to just go and put it out there. Okay, so let's figure out where this pattern originally started, because although you may like the anger that you have, you might be really angry at yourself, you might be really angry at this other person, angry that you have to deal with this fight, this argument, this power struggle all the time. Chances are it didn't start with you. Chances are it started somewhere else. So let me just see what's the most common place that this started. So it feels like you just kind of got indoctrinated into this, where it was like the image that came into my head was like Native Americans hanging out, and then they're just kind of being told like their way of life no longer is acceptable, and like the way that the settlers came to the United States, they're like, yep, we're going to do life this way now, and you don't really get a say. And then they just kind of like went along with it, and then it led to that pent-up frustration, inability to express, inability to confront. So that's like the root of it. So that's one example of it. It could be any other instance of that type of thing happening, where you basically were in a place, some new group came in to your environment, and they're like, this is how it works now. And then you were just like, and you just were indoctrinated into that, and you didn't really feel like you even consciously chose it, but it was just kind of like pushed into the space. There was a part of you that did consent to that, although this might be from a long time ago. So let's talk about why you take that on. You're not wanting to go directly into strong confrontation with people. You're willing to do that. You're willing to go there, but it feels wrong to come on like that hard, like right off the get-go, like immediately say, nope, that's not acceptable. Nope, that's not going to happen. Like that's probably hard for you to do. You probably work things out with people, give them time, give them chances, that kind of thing. And you're patient with people, and you're patient to your detriment with this pattern. So this is like a discernment thing of being able to understand when is it completely unacceptable, and that strength, that decisiveness, that confrontation, that use of force that you have is appropriate, and when it's not. So right now you just kind of lump everything into like, no, it's not appropriate. So if I bring it back to like that playground example, like let's say that they like hit your kid or something, then it doesn't really matter what was going on. It doesn't really matter the social norms or whatever. Like then that confrontation is gonna happen, and it's okay for you to blow up and bring a lot of attention to you and do all those things that otherwise you would never dream of doing. So it's like sometimes you just have to be able to kind of let go of those social norms and let go of all that stuff and let the fire come out, because sometimes the fire is appropriate. But you might be going like, oh no, please, I don't want to do that. But it also will feel like a relief. So let me see if I can isolate what's the exact pattern. It's like the desire to be proper, to be appropriate, to be respectful. That's like the pattern that holds it all together. Like that becomes more important than you feeling like you can be confrontational. So here's the thing that's going to make it work for you. So the reluctance to be confrontational and aggressive, voice how you really feel about that power struggle. What that comes down to is you're trying to keep this person in your life. You're trying to be patient. You're trying to be like, compassionate and all that kind of stuff. But what's actually happening is it's just wearing you down and grinding you down to the point where you're like, you don't even want to have them around at all. But the thing to get here is you putting up that boundary is an attempt to continue to include that person in your life. If you aren't able to say no, you can't say yes to them either. So it's like you have to be able to do that, and that's why it's important. That's why like you keep getting grinded down, because you're just getting to the point where you have to pop and you have to like explode. What you'll learn from that experience is like it's okay for you to do that if you feel like it's appropriate, not based on what everybody else feels, if you feel like that's the right thing to do. And it actually is a way for you to keep them in your life, because you're like, here's the boundary, and like, you have to honor this if you want to be around me. And if they opt into that and they're like, yep, cool, that works for me, then you can actually keep them in your life. Yeah, here, I'm just going to start working on you. So if you're ready, take a deep breath in through your nose. Release. We'll start generating frequencies. You might feel a tingling, buzzing, heat sensation. So what this really has to do with, it's you feeling like there's something you can do that's going to make you completely unacceptable. Like it's something that's going to get you ostracized and kicked out of the group. That's why you're not able to do all this stuff. You don't feel safe to have an outburst. It's going to help you install that like safety and that right that you have to belong. Even if you're pissed off, even if you get angry, even if you get confrontational, so that you feel secure in that, so that any outbursts that you have, you don't have to be afraid of the repercussions of that. Which for this group is fine, because the majority of the people in this group, you're already like pretty chilled out, calm, kind, generous, wonderful person. You're not gonna like go off the deep end here. Like you having an explosion and an outburst, it's very minor in the scope of like other types of outbursts that other human beings have. So I'm just going to help you install that feeling like it's okay for me to be me. It's okay for me to be angry. It's okay for me to feel emotions around people. It's okay for me to express those. It's okay for me to like let it come out. So if you have been having any like health problems around your throat or ears, then it'd be cool if those go away too. I'm not a doctor. I'm not promising anything. Just something to pay attention to. Removing the patterns that you have to restrict, repress, or stunt your emotions. Inserting the pattern that my emotions are safe to express. Like you won't be punished for having feelings. Okay, and then just imagine a sphere from like bottom of your chin down to like mid chest, like your sternum, about that big in diameter. So just imagine a sphere like in that area. So imagining like a little white light about the size of a quarter in the center of that sphere, and growing it so that it fills into that sphere from your chin down to your sternum. Adding in a sense of entitlement for you to be able to express how you feel. And if the word entitled makes you feel weird, good. That's a good thing for you to get over. Finishing up, the last message that came in was you were given a voice and it's yours to use. Okay, cool. So after this, if you run your own business and that starts going better, please let me know in the comments. I'd be curious to see. But yeah, that's the pattern. What to expect after this is, yeah, that confrontation's probably gonna happen, and you'll express things more fully, and it's gonna have less aggressive charge on it, but you're just gonna let it come out. It might be a little bit intense, and the other person might react exactly how you thought they were going to react, but it's going to feel good for you. You'll go through it, and you just won't care as much. You're just going to like, yeah, that's that, and it'll be like more matter of fact and less emotionally charged, but it's going to feel like this huge relief for you. And then after that, then things won't get pent up as much. So you won't have like the throat issue, you won't have the pent up resentment thing going on. It's just gonna like flow out of you. And like when disagreements or confrontations and stuff come up, you're not gonna be as afraid of them, and you'll be able to just like be yourself, and you'll feel like you're participating in the world a lot more. And like other people can enhance their perspective by being around you, even if you don't agree 100% right off the get-go. So your perspective starts feeling like a gift to other people. All right, so that's gonna do it for today. Thanks so much for hanging out. Hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please consider liking, commenting, subscribing, and sharing. And I will see you guys next time. Thanks. All right, what's up, group 4? Let's take a look and see what's going on for you guys. Yeah, for this group, first thing I notice is you're super dehydrated. And that's kind of like leading to other health problems. Keep in mind, I'm not a doctor. I'm just telling you what I sense. So please make sure that you talk to the appropriate medical professionals and you go check all this stuff out on your own. Yeah, being super dehydrated it kind of like messes everything up. Like in the same way that with a car, like if you don't change the oil, it turns into like sludge, and then the car can't run, and then all these other problems start cropping up. That's like the main thing that's going on here. It's just like you're dehydrated. What you do is, instead of drinking enough water, like, and good quality water, not just like whatever water, it's a good idea for you to take a look at alkaline water versus regular water, learn about all that stuff if you don't already know about it. So then what you'll do, instead of drinking the water that you need, is you go eat other food, and that just, it exacerbates the issues that are going on. But the pattern that this connects to, so that's like one example of the main pattern that's going on. And let me see if I can isolate what the main pattern is. It's like a sacrifice pattern. So it's like you're almost using water and feeling like all the way hydrated and feeling healthy as a reward for you. So it's like a motivation thing to get you to do stuff, and then you reward yourself with nourishment. But the thing is, you don't always do the thing that you feel like you should do in order to earn the nourishment. So then what happens is that's when you'll go eat like junk food or whatever, like things that are not conducive to your health, and you will not hydrate yourself all the way, because that's the pattern that you have. It's like you have to earn nourishment. You have to be rewarded with good health. It's something that you have to earn, not just like a birthright. So yeah, that could be a problem. So this probably came from childhood. If you grew up around people who were like really big on hard work and were big on being disciplined and contributing to society, like being a winner, being a team player, like those kinds of messages. Just basically being like a tough guy or tough woman. Yeah, or if you grew up in like a very disciplined household, it's just kind of like baked into the fabric of who you are, that it's like, I work first and then I get stuff. I do this hard thing first and then I get stuff. And that pattern is extending all the way into your health, which is the whole water thing. You're like, I will do what I need to do first and then I get to drink water, which doesn't actually work out for you. It makes it so that you can't work as hard as you want to because your body is just suffering. And then that's manifesting out into like a bunch of other diseases or illnesses or health problems. You've inspired me to drink a little more water. So I'm going to work on the pattern behind the dehydration problem, because it's just a manifestation of the core pattern that you're running. And when you're running that, then you have the water thing, which turns into the diseases and illnesses and health problems. But it all stems from that pattern. So if you just try to solve this on the physical level, you don't go to that root, the pattern root, then what you'll do is you'll like drink a bunch of water for a week, and then after a week you'll forget, and then you go back, and then you still like are in that cycle. Or you'll find other ways to make yourself suffer. So it's like you'll go through like financial loss, or you go through financial instability, even though you're drinking all the water. It's like you'll do something to push you down so that you feel like you have to earn it. So as long as that pattern's running, you're gonna have some issues. So let's work on that. So the way to let go of it is for us to figure out the original reason why we created that pattern in the first place. It feels more like a group pattern. So if everybody feels like they have to do stuff and they have to earn their nourishment, what that does, it makes people very, very productive. It makes them very disciplined, self-governing kind of thing. It keeps everybody like on track and working hard and doing things that could benefit everyone. A long time ago, that was critically important. So like the image that comes to my head is like, I imagine people doing like the Oregon Trail, when they like had like a whole bunch of people that they were trying to settle. They were going from one side of the United States all the way to the other side of the United States. And then they had horses and stuff that they were taking across the plains, and they were trying to settle in a new place. So when they would reach somewhere and they would set up camp, like if everybody was doing something to contribute, then it helped a lot of people. The problem is, while that was useful back then, right now, it kind of backfires. Also, back then, they didn't know a whole lot about health and diseases and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just imagining like, cowboys and frontier people that are going and settling, like they could just drink whiskey for like 3 days and like that's all they think that they need. But that's really messing them up and actually hampering their ability to contribute anything useful to the group. So sweet intention, totally understand where it came from. It's just a desire to like help and be part of a team and, you know, survive and win, like all that stuff. But now we have all this new knowledge about how you can perform at a higher level, and being hydrated is a really good way to make sure that you're high performing rather than trying to fuel yourself off of like whiskey or something. So the new pattern is you filling yourself up first so that you're overflowing, and then as you're overflowing, then you can go share that overflow with others. That's extremely important to you. So like with your health needs to be abundant and overflowing, and then you can go share your health with others. Focusing on you first, fill your cup up first, and then let it overflow. It's just like the old saying where it's like if you're in an airplane, the oxygen mask drops down, you got to put yours on first before you go help other people. Right now you're trying to like go help everybody else so that hopefully you earn your oxygen mask dropping down. But it's like it's already dropped down. It's automatic, and you have to put yours on first. Otherwise, you can't help. You can only help a couple people before you pass out, and then you're the actual burden to everybody else, and now everybody else has to work harder because you didn't take care of yourself first. So yeah, I'm just gonna help you work on that, installing that. I take care of myself first. I get myself overflowing with abundance, health, vitality, happiness. Then I go do all those things, and I still work hard and do all those things. You don't have to be afraid of losing the hard work. Like that's very ingrained into who you are. Even if you're nourished, like you're the type of person that you don't have like idle hands. You always find something to do. There's always some other way. That's not going to go away. But you won't just be exhausted and overwhelmed while you're doing that. So if you're ready for that, go ahead and take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold at the top of your breath. Release through your mouth. One more abundant breath in through the nose. Holding at the top. Release it to the mouth. Alright, and then I'm just going to start working on you. Deleting out the old patterns and installing the new ones. So once you're like well hydrated, just notice how those other illnesses or health issues that come up, how much less frequent or less intense they are, and really pay attention to that. Also, once again, I'm not a doctor. Go verify all this stuff through your own experience and research and all that stuff. I'm just telling you what I'm sensing and just what my feeling is. Okay. So just a heads up of what to expect after this. You might get in some arguments with people where you're going to start nourishing yourself first, and that's going to become like non-negotiable. And other people are going to show you how you've been like, they're going to reflect back that old version of you that's like, hey, you can't do all that stuff. No, you can't do that. You need to do this first, or you need to try more first, or you got to do this first. Don't buy into it. It's showing you like, oh yeah, I used to think that, I used to do that. Just stay in that place where you're non-negotiable about nourishing yourself first. The more you take care of yourself, you'll actually be able to contribute so much more. And just the sense I get is like a lot of the health things are going to reduce quite a bit in seriousness and frequency and all that stuff. So I can't promise anything, but let me know. And one last thing for group number 4 is get a glass of water and put it on your bedside table before you go to bed. And then when you wake up in the morning, you'll just see the glass of water there. Then you don't have to like think about it, remember it, or whatever. You'll just start drinking a lot more water, and that's going to feel really, really good to you. All right, thanks so much for hanging out. If you enjoyed this, please consider liking, commenting, subscribing, and sharing. And I'll see you guys next time. Later. Hey, Group 5. So let's go ahead and see what's going on with you. So the thing that you're keeping private is that you've just felt consistently unhappy for a long time, so much so that being unhappy feels normal. So you could have a smiling face, you could have a happy exterior, and no one would probably know that you feel this way, but you've been consistently unhappy for like months. And that just feels like it's the normal experience for you. Comedians run this pattern a lot of the time. So it's like we have the pain so much, and since it just sucks to be unhappy all the time, what we can do is we inflate our significance. So we go, okay, well, I'm important, or I'm more sensitive, I'm whatever, and that's why I'm dealing with this pain. It's like we wear our pain like a badge of honor almost. It also feels like you might use pain to attract people towards you. Makes them think that you're like meaningful, if that makes sense. But the problem about this is like you just like you're depressed. I mean, I'm not a doctor, I can't diagnose that clinically, but it's just like the suppression of your life force. And it's just like, if you can go from a scale of 0 to 10, if you were like a 10 as like a kid, now you've just been going between like 0 and 6, and then maybe like 0 and 5 on the scale. And then like now that the highest you've been is 5, you think like maybe 7's possible, but like the idea of 8, 9, or 10 out of 10, it's like that level of happiness, it just feels foreign to you. So this is a private issue because people ask you all the time, like, hey, how you doing? And you'll be like, oh, I'm okay, I'm fine, no, I'm good. But like, and nobody knows. Like, you keep this concealed from other people. And the reason you do that is in an attempt to protect them, is you don't want them to be exposed to that. It's like you don't want to scare them. All right, let me see if I can figure out the root of where this came from. I'm getting a couple different options. One is as a very, very young child, like infant, newborn, that time frame. Something happened, I can't see exactly what, but it was like something like interrupted some happiness, and then you just kind of shut it down. And it's not like you've never been happy in your life. You probably have definitely been happy in your life, but that pattern is getting triggered somehow by something else that's going on in your life now. And then that like it fires the same old pattern. So a good metaphor to explain that dynamic a little further. Say, for example, you get in a relationship with someone, and then you two have your song, and it's your song, and every time you listen to it, it makes you so happy, and you know, you feel loved and everything, but then you have a horrible breakup with them. So then every single time after the breakup, you hear your old song come on, then immediately it fires off those same things where it's like, oh, I used to be so happy. So then you could feel the high, but now it's ruined because you had the bad breakup. So then you feel like way lower than. It's like the gap between how good it was versus how horrible it is now. It's even wider. So then, it makes it feel painful. So it's like you had the same kind of thing happen when you were a newborn. Something happened there that curtailed your happiness or interrupted your expression of happiness. And then there's some other similar situation in life going on right now that is bringing that same kind of thing up it's for you to go back and heal that stuff. That might be why you're here. But there's something that's like, it's firing off the same association that you have. So yeah, it was just like getting interrupted in the same way, like if you're just delivering a speech and then somebody like came into the room and was like, hey, I've got a package for someone. And you're like, it's like that kind of interruption to your happiness. So that just, it can throw you off, and then it like throws off your whole rhythm. So that's basically what happened back then, and it's somehow happening right now. So let's talk about what I'll help you shift into. So happiness, it comes from being like really present, really right here. And it's not just like deleting all the negative states, but it's like being okay in negative states and positive states. Because if you're someone that's like really, really positive all the time and all you ever want is to just be positive, then when you're not positive, it's a negative state. Anyway, that's a whole mess. So what I'll help you step into is being like really present, really here, really in your body, here in time, and just kind of like deleting out those triggers from the past, even if they're like unconscious and ones that are, deep down in your subconscious that you never even think of. But if this is resonating, then you know that there's something there. So you don't have to consciously go and figure all that stuff out. I'm just kind of telling you, and I'll help you delete it out, and then I'll help shift you into a new version of happiness that is much more, it's just more present. It's not like this high-flying happy. It's just like a grounded sense of well-being where you can experience the whole range of feelings. What it feels like is it makes it less volatile. So if you're at a 3 right now, you're gonna basically move up to like a 5, and then you're gonna stay there for a little bit. Then you'll move up to like a 6.5, 7. Then you'll move up to an 8.5, and like you have to pause at each layer, and then you'll kind of move up to 10. But then if you have a really bad time, then you'll come down just a little bit to like 8.5. And so then it changes it from it being these wild ups and downs. And that's what I'll help shift you into. So just a stable sense of happiness, making happiness normal again. The byproduct of this is like you won't be able to go soaring so high. Like part of the reason that you get exhilarated is because you go from like 0 to 9. So that's like a huge thing, really, really fast. It's going to be more gradual, so then you won't have that spike of happiness as much. It won't be as intense. It'll be a gradual swelling of happiness, which is a good thing for you. So yeah, so if you'd like that, I'm going to go ahead and start doing some energy work on you now. Go ahead and take a deep breath in through your nose. Out through your mouth. And through your nose. Out through your mouth. First, I'm working on that time loop that you're stuck in. Like deactivating that trigger so that trigger can't trigger you to repeat the same experience anymore. You might feel really sad letting go of that trigger, but that's just the pattern leaving. So don't buy into it. Don't let it distort you. Just let it go. Let the feelings wash through you one more time, and then that's them going. So even if it is like pretty intense. heart space. Got like some walls up. Gonna work on those real quick. All right, that's going to do it for today. One thing I just want to point out is make sure that you put yourself into a very nurturing environment. Since your heart is going to feel a little bit more open, make sure you're in a very nurturing environment with nurturing people and surrounding yourself with something that's very supportive to you. I can't do that. You have to make that choice. But yeah, things will resolve quickly, and I think you'll be feeling really good in no time, even if you have to go through a little bit of emotions to get there. So thanks so much for hanging out. If you enjoyed this, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing and sharing. And I'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.